I'm delighted to be joined now by royal broadcaster Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Rafe, good afternoon. Let me play devil's advocate here. He was asked a question during an interview about Invictus. Some people have said he was gobbing off and using the opportunity from visiting his father last week to plug his own agenda. But what's he meant to say when a reporter says, "How's your dad doing?"
Well, he could have done what his brother, the Prince of Wales, and what the Queen did, was simply to say that he's doing well and to thank well-wishers for their support. Now, he chose to go further from this. I mean, you know, when he went to visit his father, many people were wondering how long it would be before he went in front of the cameras. The answer is 10 days is the answer. That's how long it took him. And yes, to his credit, he didn't go into details on the prognosis of his father's health, and he also said that he loves his family and was pleased. So, yeah, so
humane thing to
give him credit for that. But then, of course, yes, he did go on to say that, you know, to intimate that the cancer could be a source of reconciliation for his family, saying that all sickness can unite families. Well, I'm sorry, that wasn't on display when his grandparents were very sick and dying. And we know that his antics caused great anguish and heartache to the late Queen and Prince Philip in their final months and years. And we saw no attempt then. You would have thought that their deaths would have been the catalyst for him to come back into the family. Instead, he spent the first months after the Queen's death, the most delicate period for his father, the new king, attacking the royal family and the Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales. So we haven't really seen any demonstration of that.
So look, there's a great story in the Times today saying that Harry will potentially become a temporary working member of the royal family, maybe covering for King Charles in the coming months. What do you make of that? Is there any truth to it?
Well, it's remarkable. It's been reported from both sides, allegedly, that they've had several phone calls and that he's offered to essentially become a temporary working royal to help alleviate the backlog and all the extra work required with the king out of service. But you have to sort of wonder, where has this change of heart come suddenly? Because the king, you know, obviously the king wants to leave the door open for his son, but we've seen every attempt that the king has made to offer an olive branch has been rejected. I think the real reason here is that Prince Harry and his PR staff realise that his relevance depends entirely on his proximity to the crown. And the last year has seen the Sussexes plummeting in popularity. They've been ridiculed in the press, and no one's had any interest in their non-royal output. The Sussexes are like a planet revolving around the sun. It's their proximity to the monarchy that enables it to flourish. And being in California is like being on planet Pluto, essentially.
Quite right. That's a good point, Rafe, because this week, of course, they launched their new Sussex.com website, using their titles, giving titles to their children. From my perspective, I've always said, you know, from Meghan's side at least, she spent years and years trashing the royal family, saying how she wanted to kill herself when she was in it. She suffered mental health problems. She hinted heavily that someone made a racist comment about the skin colour of Archie. It goes on and on and on. And I say, do you know what? If that was me, I wouldn't want anything to do with that name, with that connection. I'd have some self-respect, and I'd stop using it. But yet they launched their new website, and it's the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Duchess Meghan.
Just remember, it was only a few months ago they accepted the Robert F. Kennedy Ripple of Hope Award, in part for fighting against racism in the royal family. And they've spent so long undermining that institution, you do have to wonder why they now suddenly want to help it out. And you're quite right, as I said. They realise they're not famous because they are entertaining or talented or particularly intelligent. They're none of those things. They're simply royal. That's why I think you've seen the rebranding of the website. That's why they're using the titles of Prince and Princess for the children, because they realise that their only real cachet is their royal status. And it's been a hard lesson that they've learned, particularly over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say they're not here to defend themselves, of course, Harry and Meghan, but if they were going to defend themselves, what would they say? Let me put the devil's advocate box onto your side.
What would their PR team say? Because I think a lot of this is being driven by their public relations team, who understand, actually, that if they need to have a rebranding, it needs to essentially do what the royal family are doing, but in a North American type of context. That's why we're seeing much more of Meghan trying to become, essentially setting up an American court to rival the court over here, because they think that may be their successful path, to become a sort of American-style royal family, get that cachet of royalty, but do things on their own terms in America.
Yeah. And actually, do you know what? On that new website, Meghan bangs on about compassion and being, you know, humanity and generosity and forgiveness. Well, she's not forgiven her estranged, dying father, Thomas Markle, who's had a heart attack, hasn't seen his grandkids, hasn't spoken to him in many, many years. So if you want to display compassion, Meghan, I'd argue maybe give your father a call, ask how he's doing. I'm sure that would cheer him up.